Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button, and if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button, and your membership options that lead to citizenship in the Rabyd Nation will be presented to you. I do want to give a shout out to my one and only member, AsHo64, who has been a member for 3 months. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Today I've struggled with what to do with Saturdays. I was originally doing this live stream, and I really like doing that, but my hardware, particularly my computer, doesn't like all the data that it has to shift through Wi-Fi, I think. And so there's a danger if there's too much information being shared, it'll just stop. It'll protect itself, I think, just by shutting down. So until I get some new hardware, live streaming is going to be kind of on hold. I do want to get back to that. The ultimate goal of this channel is to be kind of a live podcast 6 days a week, maybe 5 days a week. I don't know yet, but until I get there, this is what I do. I have an ordered structure, and I've been struggling with what to do. Saturdays, I think this week I announced that I wanted to do like top 3 comments, bottom 3 comments to kind of address the comments, and I'm still going to address the comments at the end of this video. Not all of them, of course. I'm just going to hit a few highlights, but I've suddenly realized what I don't have on this channel is kind of an opinion, reflections kind of thing, and I think at the end of the week on Saturday, that's the best time to do that kind of video, and so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And I'm just asking the question, will humanity ever get out of the dark? And I suppose I have to explain that question. I'm just going to talk about what I've been thinking about this week when it comes to relate to this question. It's just my opinion. I'm not attacking anybody per se, but I am calling a few things into question. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And I'll give you the background to all these questions that I ask. And I think Rabyd Reflections is going to be me asking a question and talking about it, dealing with the comments at the end of the day, because that's kind of reflective, and then calling it good for the week, and then taking Sundays off, of course, and then back at it on Monday. But will humanity ever come out of the dark? Now, I've been basically binge watching for the last couple weekends. I've been binge watching the television series The Expanse, and I'm a big Expanse fan. It's not one of my favorite fandoms that I'm a part of. My issue with The Expanse is I think typical of all science fiction series or fantasy series, there's always this need, it seems, to go more and more over the top with each season or each book. And I don't know if that's to me, it's just sloppy storytelling, because I think what you could do with a lot of situations is just, tell better stories and use the same kind of technology level, or if you do introduce and I really like The Expanse because it does have a lot of thought-provoking ideas and things like that in it. A lot of the science fiction thought-provoking ideas that have been around for a while are retold and repackaged, which is always necessary to keep them alive. And so I have been enjoying it, and I got to the end of season 3 yesterday, and the season 3 ends with them discovering this ancient race's technology where they could zip across, the galaxy to all these habitable worlds, and discovering that something had wiped this race who created all this stuff out. And the beauty of science fiction is that it's thought-provoking. It's designed to say, okay, what do we do? And the main character, James Holden, at the end of it says, he's talking to another character who's dead, kind of reflecting, and he says, why did you do this? Because humanity humanity is going to kick that door open, and they're going to explore, and they're going to get out of here, and they're going to try to see what's out there still. That's the nature of who we are. Okay, we're explorers, we've always got to push against the envelope and everything else. But I've also been thinking this week about a lot of other things about how religion keeps us in the dark. Okay, it's when people ask me what I think organized religion is, I say it's organized superstition. Okay, and superstition has never done us much good. It's actually gotten people killed. And probably still does. Okay, people superstitiously believe certain things are going to fix their life and fix their body when they don't, or they're actually detrimental. And then, they keep doing it, and then, they die because of it. And when I look at religion, I can't see that they have produced anything tangible that's actually helped humanity. And I hold the same question that Christopher Hitchens had to anybody who, well, look at all the good works religion does. Look at all the good religion does. And my counter question to that, my challenge to that, name me something that religion does that is quote unquote good that could not be done without the religion. I'll wait. And at the same time, the other question is, but you can also name something that's done in the name of religion that is one of the most heinous acts you can think of, a genocide, on and on the list goes, of things that have been done in the name of religion that have not been good. And I am concurring that religion poisons anything, but I'll use a different analogy. Religion keeps pulling us back into the dark days of our superstition, to the infancy of our race, to the childhood of our race, where we're still afraid of the dark. We still think there's monsters under the bed. We still think, and the light of reason, the light of inquiry, the light of being curious has been what has destroyed that. The Enlightenment, the Renaissance, the things that brought humanity out of all the bullshit that we, used to believe. And has given us longer lives, more healthy lives, better communication. I mean, come on, look at me. I'm a YouTuber on YouTube. These things don't come because of religion. The things that have opened up our mind, the information gathering systems, these are all the products of science. They're not the products of religion. Religion hasn't produced a damn thing worth anything, in my opinion. Okay? I don't mean to be offensive, but give me something that it has produced that nobody else can produce. I'll wait. Okay? And to me, we're still in this tug of war between those of us that believe in rationality and reason and trying to find better answers for humanity, for engaging the issues with data and research. And then are those of us that are out there trying to pull us back into our darker superstitious days where we're killing each other with clubs. And, it's religion that continues to reinforce tribalism. It's religion that continues to peddle woo instead of, scientifically based research that has predictable results. It is religion that continues to try to offer up a fake solution, an imaginary solution to imaginary problems that don't exist. And it keeps pulling us back into our darker side of being human. There's a lot of talk about, secular nations versus religious nations, but the one thing that's sure about religious nations, there's a lot more oppression, and there sure as hell is a lot more violence. Okay, and when you really look at things like that, it's like we have this tug of war. Will we ever get off this rock and become an enlightened race that actually does reach to the stars, like the science fiction writers tell us? And don't get me wrong, I'm not being a pessimist here. I'm being an optimist, because I think a lot, like some of my favorite science fiction writers, like Heinlein and Asimov and Clarke and various others, I believe in humanity. Okay, I am a humanist in that respect. I believe that we can solve our problems. I think we have the capacity to do that. Whether even star travel is even possible is a question, but if we ever get to that point and we've discovered it is possible, it'll be a human being doing science, not a religious person opening up some sort of religious gate. And that's the issue for me. The issue for me is, will we ever get out of the dark? I don't know if we'll ever get completely out of the dark. There will always be an element of humanity that would prefer to say they've accomplished something by doing nothing, by pursuing something spiritual or religious. And having been one of those people in the past, I now realize how much time I wasted and how much energy I focused on different things. It's why I end my videos the way I do every week. And so I just don't have this fear of that taking over, because I think the more people talk about the religious question, the more they realize religion just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it tends to be the thing that keeps our superstitions alive. And people have asked me since I've become an atheist, aren't you more afraid, of death and things like that? And the answer is no. I'm less afraid of death than I ever was. I don't, go seek it out. I'm not looking for death, but I don't fear it as much because I know that that's kind of a waste of time. It's a silly thing to do. Being afraid of something that's inevitable, and once it happens, I won't have any feelings about it at all. Okay, and it'll be over. I get a lot more joy out of life because I'm walking in the light of reality. Okay, the light of reason has shown me what reality really is to me. And I get, people want to argue about that, and I'm not debating, but from my perspective, that has opened up, looking at things realistically. And I enjoy life. It's a life of discovery. What is the light of reason and just science and all the things going to show us next? And I just get fascinated by that. And the only thing I really kick myself in the butt about is all the wasted time that I could have been doing this years ago, instead of, frogging around with a belief system that really is just more superstition on top of more superstition. That's what organized religion is just an organized set of superstitions. And so I don't have that anymore. And I'm waiting for humanity to realize this. And it seems to be working in the Western world, but I also look at the whole globe and realize that we have a lot of work to do before humanity really gets out of the dark. And I think, the internet spreads the light a lot faster. Okay, don't get me wrong, at the speed of light, and things are speeding up. There's still a lot of work to do. And there's still worlds and countries and places in this world where religion has such a sway and literal political power to the point that nobody can think anything else. And keeping people in the dark like that, okay? I think that also happens politically. It's not just religion's fault, because you have political systems that are about absolute control, and they keep their people in the dark through censorship and whatever else. And so nobody ever really gets to engage all the ideas. This is why, as a libertarian, I am completely against censorship. It's always somebody with their arrogance saying, well, we don't want people aren't ready for that knowledge. Well, what the hell makes you ready for it then? Okay, on what basis do you say that? You don't know that. People panic and all that, I get it. But at some point, we got to grow up. As a race, we got to grow up. I've had this discussion before, and I do think that we are kind of on the cusp of becoming adolescents as a human race. I think we're starting to throw off the mythology of childhood, okay, as a race. We're starting to realize there aren't monsters under the bed, and, that thing that we think's a monster in the corner is just a coat draped over a chair. And when somebody pulls on the light and shows it to us, oh, okay, that's not my fears. And religion just reinforces fear. It reinforces ignorance. And I just don't have time for it anymore. And I'm waiting for the rest of humanity to kind of join us there. Get past the wishful thinking and start coming up with ideas that actually make our lives better. And this is kind of where I'm at with, looking at humanity and trying to make humanity do something better. I think that's going to be the end of my thoughts on this. I'd be interested in hear what people think about this one. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just challenging people's thought processes here. I do attack religion a lot on this channel for good reason, I feel. So there's nothing new there. But I just, I was reflecting on this yesterday, and as I finished that series, and thinking about, would we ever get to this point where we could reach out and discover something like this? I don't know if we're ready for it yet, but we're getting there. Hopefully we're getting there. I am an optimist about these things. I do hope that someday humanity becomes something better, okay, than they are. And I think one of the ways is to get rid of the remnants of our past that just held us back and kept us in the dark, and start reaching out for the light instead. All right, comments for the week. Of course, I did a video on near-death experiences, and all the commenters came out of the woodwork. It was the most popular video of the week. Inevitably, somebody talks to me about their near-death experience, and I have the same two questions with anybody that has a spiritual experience and that somehow is proof of the experience of the thing. How do you get me to experience that experience? Well, you can't. And so, I can't evaluate whether your experience was genuine because you can't give me the experience. And two, as always, how do you know that your interpretation of that experience is infallible, that it isn't wrong? Okay, what is your epistemology that says, I know that my interpretation of my experience is correct? And, with near-death experiences, there's a lot of questions that could be called on anybody's interpretation of their experience. You're like near-death, your mind is going all over the place. Brain scans kind of indicate that the human mind is in kind of a dream state, and dreams are fuzzy to begin with. And, you may have had that experience while you were still in that, where your brain was still firing, and then you later on interpreted it a different way. How do you know your interpretation is correct? Well, I don't know how you could, because at the time you're in a near-death experience. Okay, so I was asked people to be open-minded. I'm all for being open-minded and hearing new ideas, but I'm not going to be so open-minded that my brain falls out. Okay, you got to give me some evidence and proof that would be convincing to most people. And so far, NDEs just don't have that. Somebody yelled at me about the Aware 2 experiment, and then I literally read the research. I said, I'm just going to jump to what did they conclude from the experiment? First of all, I had problems with the Aware 2 experiment in the fact that you only had 28 respondents to cardiac arrest, people that had died, and only 11 of them said that they had an NDE. The other 17 said they didn't. Okay, so there's actually more evidence for the non-existence of NDEs, okay, than there is, and the sample size is incredibly small. But I jumped to the conclusion, and the conclusions of the researchers themselves, this doesn't prove anything one way or another. That's literally their words. Okay, I'm paraphrasing, but that's literally what they came to the conclusion. Well, it doesn't really prove that NDEs or mind out of body experiences are real. It doesn't disprove them. That's what it says. And the guy accuses me of cherry picking. I'm like, that's not cherry picking. That's looking at the people and what they concluded. The Aware 2 study concludes nothing. And you might as well just, it's useless. Okay, it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't disprove anything. Okay. The other video I had this week was on Sodom and Gomorrah. I didn't get too much comments on this one. Usually I get theists running to the defense of God in the story that, these were evil, wicked people, but I didn't have that this time. So it's kind of interesting, when I do the series, when God kills, it's always kind of fun, but it just never really seems to, always generate a lot of bite. I think you have to get to the controversial ones where God kills for people to actually give you their attention. And Sodom and Gomorrah has some controversy to it, but not as much as some of the other ones. Let's see. The Romans Road video this week. I did get somebody commenting about sharing faith in the workplace and how it annoys them when people do it. I won't deny that this has happened to me in the workplace where people it's not even just sharing faith. It's like they'll make remarks, like we got to have our thoughts and prayers with these people. They're going through a hard time. I'm like, is this a religious platform or a company? I mean, and don't get me wrong. Companies can do whatever they want. If you have a religious founder of a company, Chick-fil-A can do whatever the hell they want. I go there to eat. Okay, they put out a damn good chicken sandwich, but it doesn't change the fact that I can look at what their political beliefs are and whatever and go, nah, nonsense. Okay, if you boycotted everything that you found offensive, you wouldn't be able to eat. Okay, because somewhere, I mean, with religion being so prevalent, you know, somewhere along the line in every company, somebody is doing something for religious reasons. Okay, so whatever. But when somebody tries to proselytize, that's a different story. My usual response is, hey, this is the workplace, that's not appropriate for this place. You want to talk to me in the parking lot, I'll be glad to talk to you, but I don't want to offend anybody by my response and thus earn the ire of HR. So why don't we end this discussion? If you want to talk about it outside of work, I don't have a problem with it. But you also have people like customers come in and try to share Jesus with you, and it's like, sorry, there's no solicitation here. Okay, you're not allowed to solicit or proselytize on the grounds. So would you please take that outside? That is a firmly reasonable response to that. Most of the time I ignore it. Most of the time it is ignorable, okay, because they're not really overt. But it doesn't, if you're deconverting, it annoys the crap out of you because you want to say something. And if you think back to how you deconverted, if somebody had gotten in your face about your faith all the time, it would actually probably reinforce your faith. Okay, we don't like it when our ideas are challenged and we take that personally. And so we kind of shell up at that point. I actually have a reaction video I'm going to be doing Monday dealing with this very issue from the opposite direction. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm going to revive helping the apologist for 1 week only. But it's just, for me, this idea of sharing faith and workplace, yeah. But once again, what are you going to do sometimes? We live in a society that's still more than 50% religious, okay, at least if you live in the United States. Western Europe isn't too bad, but over here, we still deal with this stuff. The subjective arguments for the existence of God got a lot of agreement with me, both sides. I didn't really see anybody really getting all upset about the case against God's existence and the three subjective arguments. I did get a comment on there about Dolores Cannon's. She's a hypnotist who deals with past life regression, quote unquote, where she puts people in hypnotic states and gets them to come out with their past lives or things in the past that they've been, shutting down or whatever. All right, there is some good scientific data about hypnotism because the human mind works certain ways. And what hypnotism does is it gets a person to be in a very relaxed and vulnerable state. And in that relaxed, vulnerable state, you can implant a lot of ideas. I have said it before and I'll say it again. Emotion, if you have a person in high levels of emotion and basically no levels of emotion, being completely relaxed about things, being completely off their guard, you can implant anything you want. And the thing about the whole past lives thing, and with somebody like Dolores, now I've never heard of Dolores Cannon's until the person mentioned it, and I looked it up and I'm like, oh, she's made a career out of hypnotizing people and getting them to talk about their past lives. I'll wait for the problems with that. If you have any kind of rational mind, you realize that in a hypnotic state, if a person is coming to an event, okay, where they're talking about past life regression, they already have some thoughts about it that they're willing to accept it, or maybe not, or they already have some ideas of what their past life might be. And all Dolores does is puts them in a very vulnerable emotional state where they don't have the ability to judge or discern or evaluate what she's selling. And then she implants the ideas in their head, and then all of a sudden they have this great past life story. Amazing. Weird that would happen. Let me give you an example from ministry. When I was planning worship services and when I was in the Assemblies of God, and we were doing more of a contemporary worship than what I did later in the Congregational Church. In contemporary worship, you really are using a hypnotic state. Music is really good for hypnotic states, by the way. That rhythm, that getting relaxed, that getting emotional. I mean, if you want to invoke an emotional state, play music. And what we would do in worship music, we get everybody ginned up with a really exciting upbeat song, get everybody, roused up and clapping their hands and everything else. and then we would go into some sort of middle ground, you know, worship music. We might have two upbeat songs to really get it going, and then, you know, get the vibe going. And then the last song right before, you know, you have the minister hits is a real slow, reflective, relaxing, you know, getting everybody down, but you're pulling people into this relaxed emotional state. And then once you do that, you can implant any idea you want, because people's guard is down. They're not being guarded in what you're telling them anymore. And that's what you want. Okay, there's a reason why, you know, retailers play Christmas music at Christmas. They want you to relax and buy shit, basically. Okay, you know, this is all well-known psychological techniques, and hypnotism has some validity to it. It is used, and sometimes very effectively. You know, there's been studies on this, but it's simply getting the mind to relax. Okay, and then somebody is doing something to really get you to relax, and it puts you in a very vulnerable, you know, state. There have been cases where hypnotists have used it for very nefarious purposes. Okay, but that's not woo. It's not spiritualism. It's using the mind, you know, getting the mind to drop its defenses, and then once it gets in there, implanting any idea that you want. And so when people talk about past life regression, I'm immediately going, what? Okay. They've implanted the idea of past life regression just by saying it. And then you just get a person to relax, and then, you know, just a few suggestive comments, and the human mind just goes off on its own with its own imagination. This is not, you know, I feel sorry for her because she's wasted her life peddling woo. And I feel sorry for the people that believe this crap. I really do. You know, I've seen hypnotism used to get people past addiction, so there's some good uses for it. Okay, there really has to be a trust. And if you're a hypnotist, I think there's ethical ones and unethical ones, and I think ethical hypnotists are looking to genuinely help people overcome their problems by getting them to relax and start implanting in certain ideas like, you know, you really don't want that cigarette. And, you know, a person will pick up the cigarette and suddenly this thing switches, you really don't want that, and they'll put it back down. Okay? And it's how people use this to get past addictions. It does work to a certain extent. It doesn't work on everybody. Okay? At the same time, there's people that, like Dolores, who use it to make money all their life. All they have to do is sit in a chair and peddle woo all day and make a shit ton of money. Great job. It's better than the ministry, to be honest. You can sell books, and people are fascinated by this stuff, and so they run to it. Woo, 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 woo. I gotta have my latest collection of woo, and then they do this, and it infuriates me now. You know, people ask me, what is my problem with going in a church? It's some form of PTSD. Okay, I go into a church and I get mad. Okay, I really do, and you know, it's getting better, but, you know, I have gone for an anniversary celebration. I took a deep breath and did it. But it's like I go into a church, I see all the woo on the walls, and, you know, it's like you superstitious people, you know, peddling your nonsense, keeping humanity in the dark. And, you know, here we are. Somebody that makes a living keeping humanity in the dark. Reconstruction video this week. I told the 2019 part of the story. Very, you know, not kind of a very soul searching. It was actually kind of a good year for me in the fact that I was kind of enjoying being no longer Christian and no longer a pastor. It was just, whew, you know. And so that's a good year. We're going to get to some of the harder years coming up, but we'll see. I don't know. It was kind of a, you know, other than the NDEs, it was kind of a weak for comments. So, but I think with Rabyd Reflections, I'm going to have something to think about, and then I'm going to deal with the comments and deal with them as quickly as possible. Still trying to keep things, you know, 30, 35 minutes. This will be one of the longer videos for the week, but that's where I'm going to stay. And so I'm going to cut this one off. Thanks everybody for stopping by and listening to me pontificate and deal with comments and so forth. Hopefully this will be a nice capstone to the end of every week of content. So thank you very much. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're giving all your time, your money, your energy to things that benefit you, yourself, people that you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do so, and don't waste it on the trappings of things that are false, like religion and faith. I know I speak from experience, and you'll be much happier if you do. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.